everybody. It's your friendly digital technology librarian, Christy here. Um, we are right on the cusp of Valentine's Day, and as such, I am just really in the mood for romantic movies. I don't know, I'm generally not, but this just seems like the perfect time of year for them. It's cold outside, nobody wants to go anywhere because it's just snowy and awful. So, what would be better than sitting at home watching a classic romantic film, which is exactly what this week's Film Rec Friday is all about. I have six really fantastic classic romances. They run the breadth of rom-coms to somewhat more serious titles, but they're all really entertaining with phenomenal acting. They're classics for a reason, and they are, as always, available entirely for free with the use of your Milan-Berlin library card. The three services which we always use are CleveNet's Overdrive, Hoopla Digital, and Canopy. So without any further ado, let's get to those romantic film recs. Okay, so I have one recommendation from CleveNet's Overdrive for you this week, and that is for the film Pygmalion. Now, Pygmalion is based on a play by the same name by the writer George Bernard Shaw. Now, Shaw's original play was produced in, I think, 1913, I want to say, and the film adaptation was done in 1938. It is fantastic. One of the primary reasons I think that it is so well done is actually because Bernard Shaw did the script adaptation for the film. It even won, I believe, the Oscar for his work on it. So, you really get that true stage play feel. The performances are amazing. Leslie Howard plays the protagonist, and Wendy Hiller plays his love interest. Now, if you've seen the musical My Fair Lady, you're already going to be pretty familiar with the storyline. My Fair Lady is actually based on Pygmalion, and it follows the story of a linguistics professor named Henry Higgins, who takes this bet to turn a Cockney flower girl into a well-spoken, well-to-do, I guess, upper middle class lady, or at least someone who could easily be mistaken for a member of the upper crust. So he's essentially taking this woman's speech pattern and flipping it on its head. And of course, while she's going through this serious and rigorous training to sort of rejigger the way she thinks about language and the way she speaks and the way she acts and behaves, obviously sparks start to fly. Their personalities are so disparate that it's one of those opposites attract this, and the chemistry is really so good between the two. It's all very subtle and very, like, very much a part of its time, but at the same time it's very apparent on screen, and it's just electric to watch. Their interactions are so funny and they're so fun, and it's got a little bit of screwball comedy vibe to it, but at the same time it's so much more than that. The dialogue is just fantastic. I love hearing how her speech pattern changes, but at the same time, like, the thoughts never do. She changes so much, but at the same time she totally stays the same and very much true to herself. I love that sort of story, and I love that sort of messaging, and how he is ultimately more changed than she is. I don't know. I really love Pygmalion. It's been one of my favorite films for years and years. I remember watching it with my grandfather when I was very young, and we would watch like all these old movies, and it's just been one of my favorites since I was a kid. So if you're looking for something with snappy dialogue, with really fantastic chemistry, and with a really fun, interesting storyline, make sure that you check out Pygmalion. It's available on CleveNet, and it's just a fantastic, fantastic film. Okay, quickly moving on to our Hoopla digital recommendations. My first rec from Hoopla is for the classic comedy Some Like It Hot. Now, if you're looking for something silly and ridiculous and definitely screwball comedy, Some Like It Hot is absolutely perfect. It stars Tony Curtis, Jack Lemmon, Marilyn Monroe, of course, in a hugely iconic role for her, Joey Brown, and it's just a fabulously fun film. Now, Tony Curtis and Jack Lemmon play these two jazz musicians, and they happen to witness this mafia hit. And in order to stay alive, they end up cross dressing as female jazz musicians and going on the road with this female jazz band. Um, Obviously, there's room for tons of ridiculous gender antics. Um, Tony Curtis's character ends up falling in love with Marilyn Monroe's character. That's no spoiler. It's just that's the premise from the get-go. But my actual favorite part of the storyline concerns Jerry, who is played by Jack Lemmon, and Jerry ends up getting paired with an actual millionaire um, who falls in love with his female counterpart. I mean, like I said, the two guys are cross-dressing as female jazz musicians, and he's being wined and dined, and he sort of likes the attention, but obviously, especially for the time that it was definitely not going anywhere. But it's just there's just so much room for humor and antics within the whole storyline itself. Um, it's just a really, really fun, zany screwball comedy. So if you're looking for something a little bit lighter, something that has a lot of classic lines, that's the other thing. There are tons of quotes and catchphrases that are peppered throughout pop culture references, even today. If you're looking for something that has great performances, really great comedic performances in particular, and that will absolutely make you laugh and smile, please check out Some Like It Hot. It's a really good time. Um, Another rec from Hoopla is for the classic MGM musical Meet Me in St. Louis, or Meet Me in St. Louis as the song goes. It's one of those classic musicals that is so huge and so grand and just sort of indicative of the time. It stars Judy Garland, and she is one of four daughters of this upper middle class family in early 1900s. I want to say like around 1904 or 5. Um, they live in St. Louis, and it's just before the World's Fair happens, and it's all about her life, her friends, her family, her crush on the boy next door, who is like the quintessential boy next door. It's actually a song within the film itself. Um, and it's just very charming. And it also includes like the world's most sad version of Have Yourself a Merry Little Christmas. Like, it's for me the definitive Have Yourself a Merry Little Christmas, but this is the version that I think of every time I think of that song, and it's not sung in a way that makes you think of like happy recollections. It's definitely at a very moving part in the movie. But yeah, the film itself has a lot of um light and fluffy moments. It's again a pretty typical MGM musical. So you have a lot of pieces where you've got big choral sections, and almost all of those are going to be peppy and fun. But then you have a lot of ballads as well. And Judy Garland's voice is just so iconic and so beautiful. It works so well for all the songs. Like I said, the Have Yourself a Merry Little Christmas is crazy. That's the version that I put on my Christmas playlist every single year. She sings again, The Boy Next Door, and sounds absolutely gorgeous on it. they're fantastic comedic performances. Marjorie Main plays like the family housekeeper, and she's like the predecessor to say the Brady Bunch's housekeeper. It's it's very interesting to watch her interact with the family, and I probably think about like the little layers and the intrigue about that a little too much, and it's probably just much more straightforward than I'm thinking about it. But it's a really fun movie to watch if you love musicals. 100% you should watch this. Even if you're not a big musical fan, I think the production itself, like the costumes, are insane. The costumes are so beautiful. Like the production itself is really great. I believe that this is a Manelli piece, and his direction is just, as always, so strong. Like he has such a very distinctive point of view. Like you can tell when it's a film that he's done. So yes, classic MGM musical. If you're looking for something like that, if you want something that will have like really lovely ups and downs, Meet Me in St. Louis is definitely one for you to check out. Ah, my final hoopla pick this week is for the movie The Apartment. Now, The Apartment is one of those films that's kind of hard to classify whether it's a rom-com or a dramatic romance. There are definitely really high points, like lots of humor, lots of jokes, and then there are like serious themes going on. Just as sort of like a trigger warning, there is an attempted suicide that comes pretty early on in the film. Uh, but that is part and parcel with this story. It's like one of those things that's sort of intrinsic. Like you can't take that out because it's definitely going to change all of the character arcs, the character journeys. So backing up, uh, you've got your main character, CC Baxter. He's just this cog in the wheel, kind of, I believe, insurance agent. He just is an ordinary office worker, but he has this really, I guess you would call it, swanky bachelor pad. I don't know. It doesn't really, by today's standards, I don't think that it really is that phenomenal, aside from the fact that it is an apartment in a building far from everything else. So some of his higher ups discover that he has this apartment, and they start to use it for all of their little like affairs that they're having. Um, and it sort of levels up. More and more people find out about this apartment, and he's always like just trapped outside, never able to use his own home because all of his bosses and all of these administrators are using it instead. And it just keeps going up and up and up. Like he'll get promoted for helping these guys with their side project. I don't know how to put it, but with their personal affairs. And then he gets a promotion. But then those bosses find out about this apartment. They want to use the apartment. He goes up and climbs the ladder essentially by providing this sad little hotel. Um, and that's the opening premise of the movie. I know it doesn't sound super lighthearted, and it definitely isn't like that basic theme, but somehow the movie still manages to be really funny and really, in a strange way, appealing, even though you have like these sort of sleazy schemes going on. Baxter is still like a character that you like. You want him to find his own happiness. Um, so while all of this is going on, he sort of falls in love with an elevator girl at his office. And that's really kind of the heart of the story, is this sort of juxtaposed sweet relationship that he has with Fran Kubelik, I believe is her name, um, compared to the relationships that all of these other guys have with their mistresses. And he ends up having to sort of choose between Fran and his job, and it's just it's a very interesting, very 1960s film. I would say that while it's thoroughly enjoyable to watch today, like it's just a product of its time. Um, if you like the series Mad Men, I think you will absolutely love The Apartment. I was a huge fan of Mad Men, uh, but you're dealing with very much those kinds of characters, um, very, very sort of surface type people, and it's like I said, it's just an interesting movie. I really, really love it, and I love the dialogue, and I love the way that um, Lemon makes Baxter so flawed but so likable at the same time. I think with a lesser actor, you would absolutely not have the appeal that he does. Um, because again, he's nothing really super special. He's just some office worker who's trying to climb the ladder. And he does it in a way that you wouldn't think would make him a likable guy. Except he still manages to be. And I do think that that's in large part because Jack Lemmon is just such a likable actor. So if you are interested in a movie that's like the perfect sort of depiction of that sort of almost smarmy kind of behavior, that's very Mad Men-esque, but that still manages to be fun and funny and dramatic in parts with really great acting. And Shirley MacLaine plays um, his love interest Fran, and she's incredible in this. She's absolutely incredible in this. So if you're looking for tour de force performances, yeah, this one is definitely for you. So check out The Apartment, available on Hoopla. And for my last two recommendations, as always, these titles come from our Canopy service, and the first of those is for the movie musical Guys and Dolls. Now, Guys and Dolls is one of those movies that I think every film fan should see. Now, I know musicals are not for everyone, but this one is just one of those that I think works on such a ridiculous level. Because the movie itself is kind of out there and over the top as it is, like the whole storyline. So the musical element is almost is pretty much like it's not even a factor when you decide to watch this movie. It stars Frank Sinatra, Marlon Brando, which seems like the strangest casting choice ever to me, but is what it is. And also stars Gene Simmons and Vivian Blaine. Now, Frank Sinatra plays a character named Nathan Detroit, and he runs this sort of underground gambling situation. It's this underground craps game, and it moves from place to place to place, and he's just he revels in being that guy. Like he doesn't mind being essentially a petty criminal. He loves it. He loves the life that he has. Um, he ends up uh, betting against the character that Marlon Brando plays, which is Sky Masterson, and from one bet to the next, Masterson ends up getting involved in a bet where he has to essentially seduce, but not in like a very serious way, this Salvation Army member. It's again such a ridiculous premise. It really, really is like an utterly ridiculous premise for a movie, but it manages to be so entertaining. Um, Seriously, like just the idea of the Godfather singing and dancing already kind of makes me go, "What am I watching?" Um, but it works. That's the thing that's so odd, is that this movie really, really works. Um, Sinatra has tons of songs that are fantastic in here because it's Frank Sinatra, and when does he not sound amazing? But you've also got like a couple of really iconic songs that Vivian Blaine sings. She is Sinatra's long-suffering girlfriend, Adelaide. Um, she's just magic on screen. I love her. I absolutely love her, and she's her songs are just wonderfully perfect for her character. So you've got like this concept of like good behavior versus bad behavior, and opposites attract, and it's very cookie cutter in that regard. But again, this absolutely ludicrous premise just kind of makes it work anyway. And again, if you're not a musical fan, I really don't even think that it matters that you're not. I think you'll still find this movie to be such a strange, wonderful blend of things that I think it'll still be entertaining for you. So if you've never watched Guys and Dolls, please do. The music is great. Like, you've got iconic songs. Sit Down, You're Rocking the Boat, Take Back Your Mink, Sue Me. I mean, there's so many really great musical numbers in here. And the acting is very typical for a movie musical from this period, but it's also solid. Like, you've got really great performers, obviously. And shockingly enough, Marlon Brando does a thoroughly decent job of singing and dancing in this. Um, so, yeah, if you're looking for a ridiculous but incredibly entertaining movie musical, Guys and Dolls available on Canopy. My very last pick for this week is a classic film starring two of the biggest golden era Hollywood performers. It's The African Queen, starring Katharine Hepburn and Humphrey Bogart. And this movie is just amazing. I think I first saw it when I was in high school, and like just on a whim, I picked it up because I was going through like a classic actors phase, and I have seen this probably like 10 times, I want to say. It's just an amazing movie. Katharine Hepburn plays this sort of um, spinster whose missionary brother is unfortunately killed during World War One. She she's offered safe passage on Humphrey Bogart's boat. He promises to get her away from like the dangerous area that they're in right now. But rather than just being willing to being taken to safety, she instead is just like thoroughly determined to help in the war effort, and she wants Bogart to um, attack this German boat that's somewhere, this German gunboat. And throughout the entire movie, these two are just bickering constantly. I mean, like, constantly. But the chemistry is crazy strong between the two of them. I wish they had been in more movies because, like, this one is just not enough. They are such strong actors. The personalities come across so well, and they're cast so well. Like, it's hard to tell if it's because as performers themselves they imbue the characters with so much of their own personalities, or if the characters really are just you know well cast. But it's just magic to watch them on screen. I absolutely love the dialogue and how they interact with one another. The arguments are just fantastic. Like, I mean, they're arguing from beginning to end, but it's like movie magic. Um, so their journey in the African Queen Humphrey Bogart's boat down this river is fraught with like danger, but also with them sort of growing to know one another. And it's a classic film for a reason. Like, it's mentioned in almost every best movie list ever, like on AFI and all of these. I mean, it is a well done film, from production, to the acting, to the script. I mean, it's just a fantastic movie. So if you're looking for something classic with amazing acting, with a great storyline that is just really sort of the definitive classic Hollywood romance adventure, um, check out The African Queen. It is 100% worth it, and it is just an amazing, amazing movie. So that is my list of 6 film recs for this week. All 6 films, of course, were classic movies on tons and tons of best movie lists. If you have something that you also consider a classic that you think people should 100% be watching, please, please, please comment below. I love checking out other people's recommendations. I love movies in general, so if it's happy, if it's sad, if it is silly and ridiculous, please, we want to hear about it. Additionally, if you have any recommendations for themes going forward, please comment and let us know those too. I'm always looking for ideas on what kind of lists that you guys want to see compiled as well, so please do that. So for this week, I'm going to call this episode complete. Thank you so much for joining me as always, and I will see you next week. Bye.